Alright, so next section we're going to hit is the trigeminothalamic tracts. So these do all the sensation to your face, and you actually notice a lot of overlap between these and the spinothalamic tracts and the dorsal columns, which do sensation from the body, specifically in that the ventral or anterior trigeminal tract is like the anterolateral system that carries pain and temp, whereas the dorsal trigeminal is like the dorsal columns and carries fine touch and vibration proprioception. Again, just all for the face. So as always, we'll look at all the sections here. First of all, nothing involved in the spinal cord, but it's super fun to draw, so there it is. Here is our medulla, so a couple structures we need to pay attention to here include the spinal trigeminal nucleus. So that's visible here in the caudal medulla very well, along with its associated spinal trigeminal tract. We also need to know about the medial lemniscus again still, and then our internal arcuate fibers. And we're going to follow that medial lemniscus all the way superiorly. And something that's important to note is that our spinal trigeminothalamic, our trigeminothalamic tract is actually located within the medial lemniscus. A little more dorsally, but it's really within the medial lemniscus. So I'm going to kind of use those interchangeably, but that is what all these tracts ascend through. Also here in the mid-pons, we're going to notice the large fifth cranial nerve, or trigeminal nerve, leaving laterally. And then we can see that it actually splits the motor and primary sensory nuclei of cranial nerve 5. So this one, the primary sensory nucleus of 5, is very important here. And again, as we ascend, we're just going to follow our medial lemniscus and trigeminothalamic all the way into the midbrain, where we will see again the thalamus. Again, is divided into a VPL and a VPM. Specifically, VPM here is where all these will synapse. So let's draw these. So here we have a face. Don't forget about your face being divided into V1 through V3. So starting with the dorsal trigeminal. Again, this is like the dorsal columns, fine touch, vibration, and proprioception. So we can get sensation from any part of the face. It's going to move here and go through my trigeminal ganglion, which is like the DRG in the spinal cord. Again, pseudo-unipolar. This is where the first cell body is located. It will then travel in through the trigeminal nerve, go here to my main sensory nucleus of 5. At this point, it will synapse again. And then it will decussate through pontine fibers to enter the medial lemniscus or trigeminothalamic tract. It will ascend through the midbrain until it synapses on the VPM, not the VPL of the thalamus, and then through our internal cortex, internal capsule and corona radiata, and then towards the face part of the sensory homunculus in the primary somatosensory cortex. There's one exception in that if we have a dorsal trigeminal sensation coming from the mouth, it's actually going to, again, go through our trigeminal ganglion. But once it reaches the main sensory nucleus of 5, it's actually going to bifurcate and travel bilaterally. So it will travel to bilateral medial lemnisci and then ascend again to MGN into the cortex. Same on this side. Ascending VPM cortex. So you actually get bilateral innervation of fine touch, vibration, and proprioception to the oral cavity. The rest is going to be contralateral. Finally, then there's the ventral trigeminal tract. So again, I say this is equivalent to the anterolateral system being pain and temp. This comes from all three, and oral cavity won't make a difference. Here, again, it goes through our trigeminal ganglion. But this time, after it moves in through the trigeminal nerve, it will not synapse in the pons, but instead will descend through our spinal trigeminal tract here until it reaches the caudal medulla, at which point it will synapse in the spinal trigeminal nucleus. It will decussate through the internal arcuate fibers, which we've seen before, enter into the medial lemniscus or trigeminothalamics, and then ascend contralaterally all the way up through the pons, through the midbrain, and into the VPM of the thalamus, where it'll synapse a third time. And then again move to my primary somatosensory cortex. Those are trigeminothalamics. So again, dorsal being fine touch vibratory sense is going to move from the face through the trigemic ganglion to the main sensory nucleus, and then is going to move contralaterally and ascend, unless it's from the oral cavity, and they'll move bilaterally and ascend. The ventral trigeminal tract, regardless if it's from the oral cavity or not, will travel through the trigeminal ganglion, and then without synapsing will descend through the spinal trigeminal tract to reach the nucleus. It will synapse there and then decussate through the internal arc of fibers, and then ascend through the medial lemniscus all the way up to the sensory cortex. Those are trigeminothalamics.